Hello, everybody. Mark Asley here. I'm joined again by Dr. Avivi, and today we're going to do the second part of our Burnout series. So, if you didn't see the first part, go back on either of our Facebook pages. They're linked in the description. Watch the first part where we talk about how to know if you're burning out. We talked about behaviors, we talked about relationships, we talked about things that you can notice if you're joining the Burnout Club, which is really accepting a lot of new members right now in coronavirus. So today we're going to be talking about what to do about it, and we're going to talk about four different topics. The first one being coping and self-care, the second being relying on relationships and connection, the third being identifying the root and the source of what is burning you out, and the fourth doing deeper work, which is something that Adi and I add as psychologists to this field. So Adi, you want to kick us off talking about self-care?
Yeah, absolutely. So, first of all, I'm going to say that the word self care, which is something that I learned from Mark recently, is not always a word, a kind of a phrase that works for people. If you don't feel that you deserve self care or you see this phrase as something new age or problematic, no problem. You can call it charging the battery. You can call it getting myself to a place where I can do my work, my responsibilities, be a better parent, child, or employee, whatever works for you that gives you the permission to take care of what's going on in an effective way is great for us. And so I'm going to say self-care just because I don't want to give this spiel every time I say it.
Yeah, so some of the terms that I like for those out there are like sharpening the blade or protecting the asset.
Yeah, so if you want to protect the asset, that is you, that does all these things that perhaps contributed to the burnout, it's important to look back a little bit and ask yourself, what are some things that I do or don't do? What are some items that I have or don't have in my life when I don't feel this way? When I feel refreshed and on top of things, and my tool is sharp, what is it that's available for me? And that again is an opportunity to look a little bit at patterns. Is there an amount of time that I sleep that if I sleep as much time, I feel great? Or is there an amount of time that I sleep that is too much for me? What is right for me? Are there certain foods that if I eat or don't eat, I feel a certain way? Another important thing is when we're burned out, we are disconnected from the body. And the bodies might need us to do something in order for us to be in our best shape to do all the things we need to do. So do I need to see a doctor? A lot of us postpone that. I'm guilty of that as well. Burnout can be kind of like an alarm clock to say, like, can I do an overall checkup? Like a car. Do I need an oil change? Is there an old injury that started bothering me? Do I need to see a dentist? Is it better for me when I do yoga or stretching every morning or sometime during the day to kind of restore the flexibility of the body? All of those things, or another kind of exercise, all of those things can give us a little bit more energy and restore the body and the mind. There are other things as well. On those times where I feel good, do I read more? Do I listen to my favorite podcast? Bless you, Mark. Um,
Thank you.
what is it that I do on those times that kind of make me feel recharged? That an action or some form of self-care that really works for me and allows me to feel the best that I can. And one thing that I really like that I learned from mindfulness is the phrase giving myself the time. Not finding the time or allocating the time. It's a little bit of a gift. I'm giving myself the time to do these things. I'm giving myself the time to take care of what needs to be taken care of. Anything coming up for you, Mark?
Yeah, a couple things. I mean, I love what you're saying. A phrase that I often say, to, frankly, our therapists that talk about self care, is that my self care isn't the same as yours. I think that there is a prevailing thing that self care is like taking a bubble bath or treating yourself, or some people think it's indulging in food or even substances. And for me, being a sober individual, and maybe also being a male, it looks very different. It looks more like climbing a mountain, or spending time out in nature with my friends, or doing a really hard workout. Things that are work, right? That are hard, but just like you were saying, Adi, it's this idea of honing myself, making myself feel stronger and more confident, and really getting my mind off of work. Um, The other thing I was thinking about is I think especially during the coronavirus, that many people's jobs have changed significantly. And some of the clients I've worked with, some of their jobs were pretty physical. You know, they were building things or moving things or even just walking from building to building. And a lot of that stuff is removed and we're kind of very sedentary. And even things like talking at the water cooler, for a cliche example, or engaging in some of the perks of a job. I work with a lot of people in tech, and they're used to, having massages, or they're used to being able to access, company foosball tables and play, video games or compete in tournaments with their coworkers. A lot of that for us is gone overnight. So things that were self care might be eliminated. And I think for those of you that have had those perks or that had more physical jobs, finding ways to supplement that is going to be critical. Unfortunately, many workplaces aren't really doing that because of roving crises. But it's kind of on us to really think like, okay, what kind of self care was I actually getting through my workplace, and can I bring some of that home with me as well?
Yeah, I really love that because for me, part of self-care, I live in New York and I took the subway to work. And in the subway, I said to myself, I'm responsible for nothing. And I would listen to my podcast and play Sudoku. And that was half an hour in which I couldn't communicate with anybody. I was just doing something that was kind of pleasurable and gave me some sustainability. I don't have that now. So is there a way for me to take a walk and listen to my podcast? Or can I do a crossword puzzle with my partner before I go to work in the morning? What can I do to create that kind of playful interaction that is mainly about me during my day? And remember that when you had to commute to work, you had that time. You automatically gave yourself this time. So perhaps there's a way to do that now as well. I also want to say that when you were talking, you were bringing us to the second topic, the cooler talk, the hiking with friends. I want to move toward how connection restore us and reduce that the effect of burnout. Because there is such thing in psychology or neuropsychology that's called mutual regulation. When we are with other people that we like and respect and make us feel safe, our nervous system calms down. It just regulates us. And we don't need to do much about it. We just need to be with the presence of a safe person. Now, workplaces are different, and different people have different levels of safety in their workplace. And hopefully, to most of you, there is a safe person, a friend or a colleague or even a boss or an employee, that really their presence brings some joy, some relaxation, a sense of there's wisdom there, there could be good advice, just a good feeling of safety. And that's also been taken away from us in the workplace. However, it could be available in different ways, either at home or with the people that we work with online right now. So I wonder if you want to say something about that.
I think you really covered it. I mean, I guess to hammer the point home, I think doing the work that I do, which is mainly therapeutic work, something is lost in Zoom. I mean, I'm on Zoom calls doing emotional work with people all day long, and it's not the same. I don't know if you had that experience, Adi, but there is something that gets lost, something in that more emotional realm, or like kind of the unknown realm. There's some kind of I don't like being a hippie all the time, but this idea of like a vibe or like an energetic exchange that is lost. It's like kind of those nonverbals. It reminds you of the uncanny valley, right? Like we look at the Zoom screen and it looks like a person, but like somewhere deep in our brain, we know it's not, right? Like it's a simulation. It's not the same as sitting across from somebody else or being with somebody else. And I think it's really important to consider that you may be suffering from some of these burnouts because of that missing X factor, that missing, relational component.
Yeah, there's a lot of isolation, a lot of loneliness going on right now. And especially for those of us who don't live with other people or maybe don't have a family, there is the burden of living with someone during Corona, and that's another thing. However, I do want to talk about that for a brief moment and say there are ways to invite that connection into our lives, especially with those special people in the workplace that were our go-to, were our friends, maybe the person we prefer to do lunch with or took our coffee break with. We can still do that. It just requires a little bit more intentionality. And so maybe there's a way to invite those one or two people for a hangout. Maybe you can arrange to have a weekly meeting with this person to say, let's talk about things. I miss the times that we kind of brainstorms spontaneously we don't have it, can we meet on Thursdays at 4 to just sum up the week and see if we can do one more thing for Friday? Or maybe involve them on a project, invite them to work on a project. We have our own flexibility in the workplace. Try to see if you can invite that. And in the home, are there opportunities to have downtime with your loved ones, with whoever you are present with, to really feel that you are charging each other's batteries? I know that a lot of people are filing for divorce now that they have been together. And at the same time, are there opportunities to really take advantage of the fact that somebody is there and there is some love, some care to be had? So really think, what are the interpersonal connections that for me are making a big difference? And how can I invite it into my life to recharge my batteries, to sharpen my mind and my thinking, and to give me a little bit of relief from that sense of being cooped and having to be responsible for everything on an insular level, because it's not necessarily true. It does feel like that when we are isolating.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I want to do I love all you're saying. Do a quick shout out to Duke Roomley. He's joining us live. Hey, yeah, the beard's pretty tight, right? He's commenting on the chiseled feature.
Right when you're joining us live, it makes us feel good.
I know, because it's like someone's watching these. That helps, you know.
No, we had some actual conversation on our Facebook, kind of like responses and conversation with people. That was exciting.
Yeah, Kathleen, if you're watching this one, love the comment. It was really inspiring for both of us.
Yep.
But yeah, I love what you're saying. I think connecting with people is really helpful. The last piece I'd add before moving to our third topic is I think, I can speak for me, it's important to have conversations that are not about the coronavirus. So for me, I'm playing Dungeons and Dragons with some friends, like real fantasy stuff, right? Playing video games. I have friends that, we talk about doing some projects together, planning, camping trips together, finding a way to actually move the focus, because many people are experiencing, information fatigue, where they're overwhelmed with all the coronavirus news, and it can be, one, it's good to be educated, but two, there definitely is a point where there's too much information about it, and it gets in the way of some of those connections that we had before that were maybe a little bit more casual, maybe a little bit more bonding and connection.
My friends and I are a big fan of the comedy in New York City, the stand-up comedy, and there is stand-up comedy out there. They're so creative. It's pretty amazing. So we do that sometimes. We can't sit in the same room. And my partner and I, we do also crossword puzzles. English is a second language. I'm not much help, but it is fun. So find your thing. Find your thing that has nothing to do with anything else in the world. That really is a little bit of joy, a little bit of escape in a healthy way. I do want to move to our third topic, which was...
It was about identifying the source of the burnout. So
identify the source of a burnout.
We just talked about two ways to cope. Yeah.
So it's really important to see what is different. What is it that I have added on or has been really much more present in my life? And we talk a lot about the workplace. What have I been doing more of during this time that maybe has created this burden? Has there been an extra demand on me? Is somebody expecting me to take responsibility? Am I taking on responsibilities because other people are not available? A lot of workplace people are ill, and we have to come in and take leadership positions or help. So what is it that is now different and increased my stress level? Some of it can't be helped. And just by naming it, just by telling ourselves, here is what's going on. I've been doing 4 sessions a day instead of 3. In my personal work, we had 3 team meetings a week. We have them now every day, because I work as a psychologist in an environment where we want to make sure that we discuss things with each other regarding patient safety. So that has been something to contribute to my burnout, because this little bit of space in the day where I wasn't necessarily engaged with people on a personal level, and I could just be with my own thoughts and maybe process all the therapy that I did, has been taken away. What has been taken away or been added to your schedule? Is it really, really pertinent? Sometimes we think that we have to do something, and in fact, that's not true. Can you delegate? Can you share the burden? Can you say no to something? Saying no, we should do one on saying no, Mark.
Oh yeah,
saying
noted.
No,
It's a big one.
A huge one. It is very hard. And that will take us to the deeper issue. What is it that is in your way of reducing the level of burden that you are facing right now? It might be guilt, a sense of responsibility, or maybe the environment is stronger than you. Maybe there are bosses or demands that you can't really help. So finding ways to, in one way or another, reduce it a little bit. And by the way, you might have vacation time accrued. And I know a lot of people don't take vacation right now. It kind of feels like odd because you're not going to go anywhere. Take a day off. Mm-hmm. You are allowed to take a day off if you have any vacation time accrued. And maybe sleep late one day. Turn off all the computers and electronics, because right now work is going to come in even just by you having your phone. And maybe spend the day as if it was a Saturday. Memorial Day is coming. I hope most of you have the day off. Try to see if you can take that Monday and just not be in those roles that are part of what made it so burdensome.
Yeah, I'm fortunate, in my case, though, I was fortunate that many people that I work with are still employed during this difficult time. And I find a common thread across almost all of them, I'll say even including myself, is of overworking. There are, of course, unique challenges for those that do not have jobs right now. But for those that do, I think it's not being spoken about enough. And there's a lot of overwork. There's a lot of boundaries being degraded. There's a lot of, stress and tension. It feels like a lot of rush. A lot of people are reporting that. So if you're feeling these feelings, you're not alone. I want that to be really clear. You're not alone in those feelings. The second thing I wanted to add, Adi, do you want to comment on that point?
No, I just loved it. Go ahead. Second thing.
The second thing I want to add is that some people that I work with, they don't know if their behavior has changed. Because when we're in it and we're rushing and we're just like stressed out, changes can happen over time and we don't know what's happening, because many people are when they're burned out, it's like every day is just like, got to get through the day, got to get the next day, and it's hard to know. So there's a couple tools that I help people with. There's two tools, online tools. The first is called Exist, and the website is exist.io. And essentially this is an app that works passively in the background that correlates data from everything. So you can link it to a smartwatch to see how much you're walking. You can link it to your Facebook, see how much time you spend on social media. You can link it to, if you have a diet app or food tracking, to see how much of you're intaking. You can link it to the weather, and it just creates these correlations. It runs statistical analysis on your behavior to try to show correlations. What I also like about it is that you can set up these custom questions to text yourself every day and answer a question of, what's my mood from 1 to 5? Did I have a fight with my loved one today? Did I meditate today? Did I do yoga today? You can plug in literally as many questions as you want. So you're constantly collecting data and taking in information about your behavior. The next one is pretty much the same, but more focused. It's called Rescue Time, which is specifically for people in the tech industry that spend a lot of time on computers. It can just give you a printout of what websites you're using, what apps you're using, how long you spent on each one, what your habits are around switching between them. So if you're someone struggling with internet addiction or gaming addiction, or you get distracted online a lot, Rescue Time is a great way to start to understand what's happening for you, even if you might not be able to notice it in the moment. There's nothing quite like looking at a graph about yourself, right? And seeing that when, Facebook rises, mood decreases, it's a pretty wild experience.
I cannot agree more. And I can tell you that I just took off Instagram completely off my phone a couple of months ago because my anxiety and Instagram were completely correlated. It just did something to me that wasn't right. And there's things that I love about it, and it's not worth it for me, especially not now. So I think when we publish this, you can put those two items in the write-up. Mm-hmm. I think that would be helpful for some of the viewers.
Absolutely. So the last thing I want to talk about is
the deeper things.
The deeper things is what we add to the conversation. So a phrase I use with a lot of my clients is, if it's hysterical, it's historical. which essentially means that if you've gone through these wonderful things that we've outlined, you've taken steps, you've worked on your self-care, you've removed some of the dangerous behaviors, and you're still just like freaking out, it's likely connected to a childhood trauma or to an old way of being. I can put as many endorsements for psychotherapy as possible, but a lot of people live what's called an unexamined life, where they don't go back and they look at how their childhood affected them, or if they were bullied, or if they had something bad happen. A lot of times we just want to push that away and just plow forward and just pretend like everything's going to be okay. But if there's a situation that reminds us of that, and that old situation was never worked through, where the feelings weren't processed, we can get triggered. That's what that word means. We can get thrown back, we can regress, is another psychoanalytic word for it, back to those old behaviors and those old feelings. And it can really throw us for a loop, and in many cases actually destroy lives. And I'm not saying that lightly. Trauma and regressive behavior, if not healed and worked on, can literally destroy your life and destroy your families.
Yeah, it might push you to do impulsive things because you would feel so overwhelmed and so trapped that you will feel an enormous urge to respond, and to respond immediately and with some swift action. And a lot of time when you look back, you'll be like, if I could just clear my head, that wouldn't be the action that I chose. And I really am so happy that you're bringing it up. And again, both of us are psychotherapists, and that's what we do. I cannot tell you how many of my clients and my patients, the people I work with, come and tell me things that I know as a psychologist had a profound effect on them. And what they say, at least in the beginning, is like, yeah, my parents divorced when I was 4 and I didn't see my father anymore, but I don't think about that. That's fine. That's not why I'm here. And on the one hand, I respect that people maybe have put some things to rest or they don't want to work on it. And I keep it kind of like as a floating awareness that this is a person who experienced a childhood trauma, somebody who experienced an abandonment. And maybe when a parental figure, maybe a boss of a male persuasion, is pulling away or unpleased with them in some way, they might have a stronger reaction, more intense, more prolonged than the actual interaction with that boss is calls for. So you may hear this and be like, okay, those two in their psychology. Just try to notice your own pattern. Is there something or some times in which your reaction in the moment is bigger, more intense, and slower to calm down than what maybe others are experiencing? Are others sometimes saying to you, whoa, that was a little much, or they're confused by how you're reacting? That doesn't mean that something is wrong with you. It might mean that there is some emotional world inside you that is trapped and is unknown and doesn't have words for it. And when certain situations are happening, especially with other people, that little place might be tapped and be the only thing that's present. And those are very distressful moments. So I think what we're saying is, if that happens to you, maybe this video will bring some curiosity and invite you to consider going for some in-depth work to resolve these things, and really try to entertain the idea that perhaps it did affect you. And if you get free of that, if you become familiar with it and even befriend that part of yourself that is needing some healing, then you'll be way more effective and you'll experience burnout a lot less.
Totally. So as we're wrapping up here, I just want to, actually, first, beautifully said. I mean, that's an incredible endorsement. I think that's what it is. That's what it is. I think especially when a feeling feels impulsive or compulsive, when you're like, whoa, that came out of nowhere. I can't believe I reacted like that. That's your brain getting hijacked by the trauma and acting. So that's a good way for those listening. If you're like, did this happen to me? If you have those moments where like you just get like taken away and you're like kind of a zombie and you're just doing stuff or saying things that feel out of control, that is a great way to know that there's something historic going on.
I will also say, if you have certain behaviors that are designed to numb your emotions when you're burnout, if suddenly you are sleeping all day, or substance use is increasing, or you're suddenly binge watching 3 TV shows in one weekend, and it actually doesn't feel good, it just feels, let me disconnect, there might be something arising that is too overwhelming. And again, go look at it. It's so beneficial.
So we have to wrap up here. We could keep talking. Maybe we do a 3-part series on burnout.
But yeah, let's just remind people what we were talking about today. So this is our second burnout video. We were talking about what are some things, some self-care behaviors that can restore us. We're talking about interpersonal connections and how they bring us co-regulation, mutual regulation, and how to use those to heal from the burnout. We were talking about looking at what is actually contributing to the burnout, the actual problems at hand, and how to address them. And we were talking about the deeper issues, the maybe past historical things that could be part of what's making it difficult for us at such a time.
Yeah, so we'd love to hear if any of those 4 resonated with you, if it brought up any thoughts, any opinions. We are checking the comments, so please comment, let us know. We'll respond back to you. We want to get this dialogue started. And if you have any topics you'd like to hear us talk about, let us know. We're here to create something that is of value to people and hopefully, something to look forward to each week.
All right, everyone. See you next week.
That's our send-off. See ya. Bye.